Order. Andy Slaughter to move the motion.
Mr. Rossiter, it's a pleasure to see you slide effortlessly into the chair at the beginning of this debate, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to raise what is perhaps the central issue for my constituents, which is the future of the major hospital in my constituency, although I also, of course, have the world-class Hammersmith hospital there, and not only to me, but to many people across West London, which is why I'm very grateful to see my honourable friends from Brentford, Isleworth and Ealing Central and Acton present as well. Next year will be the 200th anniversary of Charing Cross Hospital, and the rather more recent 45th anniversary of the current building on the current site, although I should say that there's been a hospital, previously the Fulham Hospital and its predecessors on that site since 1884, so this is a long history, but also a prestigious history. This is one of London's major teaching hospitals, part of the Imperial Healthcare Trust, and one that doesn't rest on its laurels, but which has an unprecedented level of demand, and indeed a growing level of demand. But I will spend only 2 minutes of my time on what one might call history, and that's simply to set the scene, because I've deliberately titled this debate "The Future of Charing Cross Hospital," and I've been in contact with the Minister's office to try and indicate how I would like to move this long-standing SOAR for the local community forward, if not entirely this afternoon, that may be asking slightly too much, and certainly over the next weeks and months. Yes, it is about history, but it's also about a rather devastating series of decisions, and these are not new decisions, because the first time that there were plans to substantially downgrade the hospital were back in the 1990s, and I remember being involved in campaigns then which were led by the former Member of Parliament for Brentford and Isleworth, which is when she later, Anne Keane, when she later became a health minister, I knew that the hospital was in safe hands. I hope it's going to be in safe hands with the honourable gentleman as well. But the current events began with great surprise, and it may surprise the Minister to say with great surprise, because the plans for the changes at Charing Cross were done largely in secret over 2 years, from 2010 to 2012, and then when they were announced in 2012, it was for a full-scale clearing of the site, all buildings of the Imperial Trust on the site, save for a new clinic to be built on 3% of the existing site. That was modified in 2013, partly, I think, because of pressure and to give some cover to the then local authority and others, which was SaHF controlled, to get behind the proposals for the changes to the site, with what was described as a new hospital, but which is in fact, and I don't think, and I do say advisedly, in fact, a collection of primary care treatment services with an urgent care centre, which is going to be called a local A&E, and it's going to be called a local hospital. But however, let's not get hung up in the terminology here. It's very clear what actual services will be provided on that site if the proposals go ahead, and that it will be on 13% of the current floor area of the existing hospital. And that is what has caused problems and difficulties, and of course I'll give way to my friend.
Thank you, and may I congratulate my honourable friend and constituency neighbour for both bringing this debate, but also for his leadership in the campaign on the future of Charing Cross. And will my honourable friend appreciate that the principal fear about this issue is the loss of the accident and emergency service at Charing Cross, the full-scale accident emergency service. That in itself has been a great fear among my residents, particularly in the eastern half of my constituency, but also from a far wider area, because the loss of accident and emergency also potentially means the downgrading of many services, inpatient and outpatients, which are linked to the fact that there is a full-scale accident emergency service there now.
Yes, I'm very grateful, and for the clarity my friend brings to that point. What is proposed is the loss of all consultant emergency services, so type 1A emergency consultant services on the site. That's a very substantial change to the health facilities available there. Now, this was branded, it was under the heading of Shaping a Healthier Future, which I'm afraid my constituents regard as a rather Orwellian title, but that programme itself has now become subsumed in the sustainability transformation proposals, which are now nationwide. But essentially, the meat of the proposal has not changed over that time. And I do not resolve, I look for points of agreement, if I can, that some of the objectives there are perfectly laudable agreements. Specialisation, bringing together expertise on a particular site, as has happened with stroke services, with major trauma, with renal services and so forth, even within the three hospitals in the Imperial Trust. That's to be commended. Improvements to primary, to social, to community care, which may in time lead to less pressure on acute services. Again, no one objects to that, and if there is a consequent, not just better health outcomes, but saving of public finance, again, that's the case. The problem is, and the reason why there has been a breakdown of trust, is that the changes are being advanced before those consequences can be seen. So, of course I do.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. Would you not agree with me that these plans may be transformational, but they are certainly not sustainable, given that London's heading for a population of 10 million before long? Even his own borough, Hammersmith and Fulham, there's projected to be 12,000 more people between that last census and the 2021 one, the next one. We were both at a meeting on Monday night when he pointed out that the borough has a target of 20,000 new homes by 2035. Where are all these people meant to get treatment when we've lost A&E at Charing Cross, at Hammersmith, we've lost maternity and paediatrics at Ealing? Demographically, this is illiterate.
Well, my old friend puts it very forensically, because the difficulty is however much the aspiration may be to relieve acute services, most independent analysis, and whether this is done through the King's Fund or whether it came from the Mansfield Review, specifically local to West London, is that is not likely to happen in the foreseeable future. And indeed, any additional investment, and there's precious little, into primary or social care, is barely keeping up with the pressure on those services. And that, as I say, is where the lack of confidence comes from, because however pious and laudable the aspirations are, they are simply not happening in fact. I welcome the announcement that nothing is going to happen in the current STP period, which runs to 2020, which is an admission by the government that pressures on services are so great that one couldn't possibly think about the downgradings that have been proposed at the moment. But that is simply putting off a wrong decision, in my view. And although that means that nothing can happen physically to the Charing Cross site other than to maintain it until 2021, and I've been told privately that probably means